All right, welcome back to Market Day Report. I'm Scott Schulte, otherwise known as the Cow Guy. Thank you very much for joining us on this Friday morning/afternoon, depending on where you are. Let's take a look at the markets so we don't waste any more of your lunchtime. I'm sure that's what it is for a lot of folks right now. September corn, how about that? Off 9.5 cents. We've added to our losses here a little bit. 5.66 1/4 is last. Plumbing the depths. We're only about 3/4 of a cent off the lows here, folks. Let's go out to December. The new crop, that's 7.5 cents lower to 5.65 3/4. Just can't not stop this bleed. Even though we do have something a little bit better last time I checked in soybeans, it's still up 15 cents in that soybean August contract. 14.33.5 is last, but 11 cents off the highs. We've got no new crop up 17 cents even at 13.18.5. Let's take a look at where the wheels fall off, and this is where it is. Look at the wheat contract down 44 cents in that September to 7.62 1/4. 4 cents off the lows, I guess. That's the positive, I suppose. March, let's take a look at that. That's out the deferreds. It's also on the curve here. 40 1/4 cents lower, 7.94 3/4. It doesn't get much better in Kansas City. This is the hard red wheat there, 44 cents as well. Taking off that SEP contract to 8.17 1/4. We've got DSOF 43 1/4 cents to 8.24.5. Spring wheat, Minneapolis, 36 1/4 cents lower in that SEP contract, 8.76 1/4. That hurts. March is off 31.5 cents to 9.03 1/4. And lastly, let's take a look at cotton. Cotton's going to be just a tad lower, 82 points to 90.78 in that heavily traded D's contract. Let's bring in our next guest analyst, hailing from Chicago, Todd Horowitz. Thanks for being on the show, Todd. Well, I mean, I guess it's all about the wheat today and that agreement that they're going to try to get some of that grain out of there. What are your thoughts?
Well, they can get all the grain out they want. First of all, will they get it out? Number one. Number two, are we going to be in good shape? And number three, if you take in the other countries that produce that had bad years, I think it still leads to higher prices. But of course, as I was talking during the break, the equities have been so much higher all week that's going to punish a little of the grain markets, because that's like an alternative investment. And right now, I think really what you have trading in the grain market is just fun money anyways. And my opinion is they're still trying to break them and force them liquidation. I do think they're going to go much higher later, because I don't see anything really dramatically changing. And I think there's going to be a short supply. Now, again, I could be wrong, but to me, everything adds up to higher prices later. But right now, we're in that in-between period between planting and harvest that, we're looking at the weather, we're looking at this, and of course, money goes away as long as equities rise, and they've been running all week until today.
How busy? I mean, what are the volumes like? I mean, is it easily pushed around? Do you see big clips going through? I don't see that from here.
There's very little volume going around, which even leads it easier to be pushed, by any order that's of any size is going to push these markets. I mean, I was looking at corn earlier when I did my update, and corn was higher. Now it's almost 10 cents lower. And wheat's been steadily lower all day, and the beans are kind of churning. But we see this almost every day, Scott. A lot of movement. You turn your head one time, you cough, and the next thing you know, they've changed direction. And this is, I think, the issue we're watching right now is just slow, grinding markets that will make a move, and I don't think it's going to be lower.
Well, that's nice to hear, and I think that I speak for the viewers and some of these producers out there that want to see folks come on with a little bit of a positive attitude and talk about higher prices. But the problem is, if we shoot higher, are we going to shoot higher from a lower level, right? I mean, because it depends on where you rally from, right? Real quick, we got about 10 seconds.
I think 100%. I think that they could go a little bit lower, but I think we're pretty close to the lows.
All right. Really appreciate that. Stay right there. We're going to go away. We're going to pay some bills. We're going to come back and talk livestock with Todd Bubba Horowitz after these messages. All right, welcome back to Market Day Report. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for tuning in. If that's what you're doing, if you've been with us all day, that is my job, to make you stay. All right, let's take a look. It's going to be a little easier with these prices. Let's use the Cow Guy wants to see live cattle. Let's take a look at the live cattle markets. That's a great segue to take a look at what's been happening over there in the meats. The August is up $1.47 in Chicago live cattle. 137.22 is last. Go out the deferreds. Let's look at Deese. That's right in the middle of the curve. 172, $1.72 higher there at 148.05. So that's awakened the sleeping live cattle contract, and we're starting to see some decent gains there across the board. How about feeders? Now, I said this earlier, and I still believe in it. This should have been happening yesterday, but still, with a lower corn board, this does obviously help. It caught fire today. August up $3.25 to 181.47. We've got October up $2.97 in the Chicago feeder cattle. 187.20 is last. All right, how about we move over to lean hogs and see what we've got going on over there? It's front loaded, right? August is up $1.97 to 118.27, and as you go out the deferreds, we're still higher, but we're less higher the further you go out. Ultimately, until April, where we have April sharply unchanged at 91.80. Let's bring back in Todd Horowitz. He's with Bubba Trading in Chicago. Todd, a pretty good day. I mean, it kind of makes you feel a little bit better after looking at those wheat prices. If you take a look at livestock across the board, we've got some decent numbers.
Listen, I think they look great, and I think cattle and hogs look great. I just don't think that there's a ton of room to go on the upside. Now, the interesting thing to look at is if you look out in the curve in feeders, they're in great contango, which is actually fairly bullish. Fats are pretty flat, but they're higher. I mean, I would, if you ask me, I think that 140 is probably the high in fats is where they're going to go. I don't think there's a big sell-off coming, but I don't know how much more room we have to go higher. And I think the same applies for hogs, especially hogs, because we're getting to that time of year where we drop anyways. And of course, we got a pretty big spread between August and between October. So I think that they're probably pretty close to their highs, but that doesn't mean they're going down. It means they can just churn sideways in a range, and that's what I expect to happen.
Yeah, and something that you and I talk about too that we haven't brought up yet, but we've had some numbers come through. The Philly Fed Index, we had some PMIs come through today. They all kind of stink, if you ask me, and so that means the economy is shifting underneath our feet. Probably, actually, for sure, faster than the Fed's going to be, taking note. And so next week we're going to have something happen, which is going to be the perfect storm I've never seen happen in my career. Maybe you not either, but we're going to raise rates on Wednesday, and we're going to be declaring a recession on Thursday. Who would have thunk it, right? I mean, absolute
You and I have only talked
insanity.
about it every April last year. I mean, it's not like
insanity.
It wasn't telegraphing what they were going to do. So,
I know. All right, that's enough from us. We got to break it off there. Thank you very much. Todd Horowitz, he's in Chicago. He's with Bubba Trading. You could take a look at him, and I'm in Nashville, so I can throw this back over to Suzanne.